great. Uh, so I'd like to introduce Mary Collins from Insect Shield here today. We are so excited to have her. Mary joined Insect Shield in 2007 as a sales manager. In 2012, Mary relocated to Shanghai, China to oversee international business development, the Insect Shield China treatment plant, and the building of Insect Shield Vietnam in 2014. You've had some really big jobs.
Yeah.
She is an integral part of growing Insect Shield's international presence and operations. Mary also manages a variety of outreach programs designed to help educate the public on insect-borne diseases, their risks, and prevention. Previous to her time at Insect Shield, Mary worked at Ex Officio with Insect Shield VP Richard Hemmerling for 19 years in a variety of positions from marketing to product development and sales, including the original launch of Insect Shield apparel. Mary holds a Bachelor of Science in Textiles and Apparel from Cornell University. So welcome, Mary.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me and to let me share some information about Insect Shield and how, some other tools people can use to protect themselves from insects and especially ticks, because obviously, the more people we can prevent from getting tick bites, the less people that have to go through what I imagine many of you have gone through and are going through now. So I'm really happy to be here. Should I get started? I've got a brief, I've had a little educational overview about Insect Shield, a little PowerPoint. I'll share my screen. And then I'm going to show you some resources that we have on our website, and then just kind of talk about some other tips and preventions that we offer. And then happy to answer any questions, because I know insect repellent clothing and putting insect, kind of how it all works. There's often kind of some questions of, feeling comfortable about using it and kind of how that can happen for you and your family. So I'll share my screen and let's see here. Now I got to do my readers here. My little PowerPoint is here. Let's see if this works. Oh, and let me just get that in the proper mode. There. Oh, we're at the end of it. Now you get a preview. There we go. So Insect Shield. So Insect Shield. So what we do is it's converting apparel and gear into long-lasting and effective and convenient insect protection. So we bond Permethrin into the fabric fibers of textiles. The thing about Insect Shield is we didn't invent a new insect repellent. Permethrin has been, actually, I think I'll pop to the next slide. Oh, it doesn't have the Permethrin one. Permethrin has been available in the US since 1977. You can buy a spray form and you've been able to spray it onto your apparel or other gear products. It was originally developed with the US military because the military kind of actually develops a lot of these technologies because they've got money to give to research and development. And at that time, the military, they were doing what they call a shake and bake. So they were giving soldiers typically like liquid Permethrin and a big bag. And literally they were putting their uniforms on, shaking it, and then they had to lay it out to dry. Well, as you can imagine, it was messy and inconvenient. And what would happen is, soldiers would do it 1 or 2 times and they wouldn't do it again because it was too much of a hassle. So they reached out to the textile, community, technical textiles, and said, help us with the solution. And that's where Richard Lane, our president and inventor, who's a textile chemist, he came up with Insect Shield and figured out how to get the insect repellent bound into the fabric fibers. The interesting is that insect repellents are regulated by the EPA. So unlike most other textile finishes, they don't have kind of the regulation around it. So it kind of creates a whole nother hurdle, and I'll get into that. But basically we take your shirt and we get the repellent in there. And now it's a repellent shirt. And actually the EPA will say your shirt is not a shirt. It's first and foremost a repellent and then a shirt. One of the big questions that obviously comes up are people say, well, insect repellent is gross. I mean, it's yucky. You grow up, I'm going to get in my eyes. My kids don't like it. You sweat. It's like, there's that feeling of like, what's happening? Like, why would I want to put that on my clothing? Well, Insect Shield works in the same way, like it's bound in the same way like dye stuff could be bound into your shirt. So you're wearing a red t-shirt. you're not worrying, hopefully, that you're going to, take the shirt off and your body's going to be red. Unfortunately, I think we've all had that experience where that happens. You're like, okay, something's wrong with that shirt. We bind the repellent in at such a level that it's in there. It's not on your skin. It's on the garment. And the other thing you can think of is that to last through 70 washes, which is actually beyond the expected lifetime of a garment, you got to get it in there and staying in there. So really the loss of it, they say 70 wash because they consider that eventually there's some fiber loss through use and wear, but you all have a t-shirt or, something you wear after you wash it a bunch, it might get thin in certain areas, or the color has shifted a little bit. What's in your lint tray, that's, fibers coming out. So when you lose some fibers, you lose the repellency. So it's kind of how that part of it works. So like I said, permethrin has been around for a long time and has been proven throughout many years to repel mosquitoes, flies, midges, ticks, fleas, ants, and chiggers. And those are the insects that we can claim repellency against. The interesting thing with ticks and actually ants, the crawlers really get uncomfortable with permethrin because a mosquito could come and get kind of close, but they can fly. So they might get close, they may land, and they want to go away. Ticks, they get what they call, permethrin causes, they call hot feet. It makes them very uncomfortable. So we have testing done, and we have some videos, I think, where you put 2 pieces of fabric down, one's treated, one's untreated. You put some ticks on it. You get some ticks that obviously that are, disease-free, and the ticks are just hanging out. As soon as you lift the shirts up or the fabric up, the ticks on the untreated will just crawl right up, and the ticks on the treated will fall off or try to get off. And actually, if they can't get off, they will die. Because ticks, that's the key thing too, and we'll go over, but ticks always start from the bottom or from kind of maybe slightly below the knee, but ticks hang out in the low area. So it's protecting the low areas that they don't crawl up. And so like little things like we do, socks, kind of spraying your shoes, you want to stop them before they can get up. And that's where people say, well, we have a good thing about the myths of ticks, like, well, they fall from the trees. And our tick expert, Dr. Mather out of University of Rhode Island, he'll say, for a tick to climb up a tree and then to fall out of a tree, like that's a lot of work. They hang out low where they're going to either find a person, or usually it's mice or deer, something that they can jump onto to get their blood meal. So that's where Insect Shield is really, ticks are where probably, almost works the best against ticks because they start low and it's easy to kind of protect down in that area. But it's interesting, when I first started with Insect Shield and been there a long time, it was really all about mosquitoes. We're talking, 17, 18 years ago, Zika virus, dengue fever, which really aren't in the US. And now the conversation is really changed to ticks. And unfortunately, it's because tick-borne disease has become such a bigger issue. But in another sense, that's also, I think, the platform of getting the word out and really saying, how can people protect themselves? You see it so much more now, which I think we're all happy about in this community. So I will continue forth. So in terms of longevity, as I had mentioned, something interesting to note in the textile world, most of the, you go buy a t-shirt, it says it has UV block on it or it's moisture wicking. If they're using a finish, kind of similar to an Insect Shield type of finish, they're only going to last 30, 40 washes, but they don't have to put that on their label because they're not registered by a government agency like the EPA. They're registered under a different group, and they're not repellents are repellents and they're EPA registered. Textile finishes saying, oh, my shirt's going to absorb liquid, moisture, be moisture wicking, be comfortable when I'm out there sweating. That's not regulated. So it's something to keep in mind because I think we all grow up and we all use insect repellent, and it's all about reapplication. It's like, okay, put it back on, put it back on, put it back on. So that's where we're used to using it in a way where we're always having to put it back on. And that's where Insect Shield kind of changed that conversation. And it's still, people are like, well, how long does it last? Because it can't last long, because every time I use insect, repellent, I have to put it back on every few hours. So that is, a huge benefit, and something that in the textile world, I think people don't think of when they're often buying other products that are technical in nature. So one thing, and then also with our EPA rating. So the EPA, you'll notice on the back of any can, and even like we sell a spray, which I'll talk about, and the spray does have its caution because it's a spray, and sprays could be put in my eye. They can be misused or overused. The insect shield apparel products and gear products, we have what they call a category 4 registration. So that means the label, and we have there's a label on every product, and it has all that government kind of language on the back, but it has no warning or caution. So that means it can be used by infants, women who are pregnant, who are nursing, anyone, because it's in the item and it's not on the skin. So anything that the EPA deems that's kind of on the skin or could be misused, or could, a liquid that could be swallowed, there's really no way to misuse insect shield. So you don't have to worry about the warning or caution. And it is the only insect repellent that you wouldn't have a warning or caution, because again, you cannot misuse. Again, you can't get in your eyes, can't swallow it, you can't overuse it. We apply it at a rate that is dictated by the EPA. So permethrin treated clothing itself is recommended by many international agencies, CDC, World Health Organization, USDA. You can see the others, but it's definitely well known as a great option for protecting yourself. In terms of kind of how we test this, because you can't do human testing. Sometimes the Army does, but generally human testing in the US is not really considered proper anymore. So we do a test called knockdown testing, where it's a lab test, and we put a piece of fabric in a petri dish and put mosquitoes or ticks or the other insects in with the fabric. They hang out for about 2 minutes. The fabric is pulled away, and then they check to see what's happening with the insects after 15 minutes and 60 minutes to see if they're knocked down. So it's not a real life situation, but it's a way that in the lab we can replicate the exact same thing over and over and over. And this is just showing the effectiveness through long-term washings. And you'll see on the right is ticks, and the ticks is really off the charts, because mosquitoes can get a little bit squirrelier, but ticks, like I said, they get stuck on there and they can't get away. They can't, even in a petri dish, the mosquitoes can try to stay on top. The ticks can't, are exposed to the permethrin, and they have to, stick around. The process itself, because obviously, people are thinking you're putting, repellent on, what's happening, how you get it on. The system that we have developed, it's a completely closed system. So there's no wastewater management, fabric. I come from the textile background, and you go into a fabric mill or dye house, there's a lot of water being cleaned up. And honestly, and going back to my point about the dye stuffs, if some of the dye stuffs that go into, making our, the different colors, it's kind of some nasty stuff that, you would if I knew that I was putting that on, I might, want to think again. So the system, knowing that we're really just putting the permethrin on, and again, permethrin has this, excellent safety record, and is effective and will not, hurt you in any way. So that is something we could think about. And also, hopefully we're, eliminating some spray cans and extra waste from the general usage environmentally. So we do all sorts of products. We do, obviously, so, apparel is number one, but we do pet products, and, for gardening, fishing, hunting, really any outdoor, anything outdoor. I was just mentioning with Dorian, we have a company out of in Minnesota. I think they're in Minneapolis, but they do hunting. They're called Game Hide is the name of the company. But when we started working with them, I don't think 8+ years ago, they actually called their insect shields for their product their Elimitic line, because their focus was ticks, because ticks and hunting are the number one issue, because you're hanging out and often on the ground, again, low on the ground. And so they really felt like that was the message, and they've been very, very successful. So obviously any outdoor, adventure, depending where you are, you can use insect shield. We have a number of brands. So, a lot of outdoor brands use our product. We do because, you know, I was working internationally. We have a lot of customers in Japan, Australia, kind of all over the globe, using Insect Shield. Definitely focused on, you know, more outdoor pursuits as one would expect, but a lot of well-known customers using Insect Shield and getting the word out. And we do a lot of work. We actually work with a lot of, you know, kind of utilities. Duke Energy is a big one. I'm in North Carolina. They're a big customer because they're realizing a lot of their, you know, people are going out, you know, it's just utility workers, and they're, that's kind of their day is working outside. And they had like tick reported disease in a work situation like that becomes a reportable incident for OSHA. And it was becoming a big concern because obviously they want their employees to be healthy and protected. And they also don't, you know, want people to get sick. So we've been working with them, and they've had a huge success. They're just like, it's really changed the conversation about worrying about ticks for their workers. So we do that. The US military, so we treat US Army uniforms. We've been doing that for a while now. And they, like I said, they had developed it originally, but then it took them a while to actually adapt it to all the Army uniforms. But they do now, all the ACUs are treated. And it was great. I was talking to a gal who actually, she's Alpha Gal. And her son had just joined the Army, and she was talking to him, and he was like, oh, he was somewhere where it's kind of tick endemic. And I said, have him check his uniform, open it up, and he'll see a tag that it's treated with permethrin. And she just like gave a sigh of relief. She's like, okay, at least I know he's got, you know, something on, because, you know, they're out there, and, you know, she, you know, didn't know what he could use for his protection. So we do those. You know, we kind of get a lot of media and all that, which is what it is. But I think, which I'll talk about later, we are trying to really make an effort to just help educate. Like I've been reading, because right now it's kind of coming to tick season. I'm sure you all see it. The local news is doing things, and some of the information they give, it's not, there could be a lot more that could really help people, instead of just saying, oh, make sure or just come inside and put your clothes in the dryer. And you're like, well, maybe you could do something to kind of preempt that in the forefront, like using something like Insect Shield or other repellents, just something it's not about the after, oh, I got a tick, what do I do? It's like, how do we help not get ticks? And also, if you do get a tick, what do you do? How do you take it out? Saving the tick is, you know, sending it in somewhere for testing, if you can, to even see if it has any of the different bacteria or viruses. And if it does, then maybe what you can be looking for, thinking about those things can really just help you, you know, with your doctor, and being, you know, knowing maybe what you're looking at. And then, of course, some people never know they even got bit by a tick. So that's a whole nother, I'm sure, you know, you all have gone through some of these things. Global health wise, we do a lot of work. This ends up being more probably with mosquitoes, because it's more in the kind of areas where mosquito-borne disease has really, you know, can change, can really devastate people. So a lot of these end up being more on the mosquitoes, but we are seeing now more of these kind of coming out with people with asking about tick protection in certain areas in the global health. So we continue to develop, and, you know, always looking for new partners. Our owners are very committed to thinking, realizing we have a technology that can really help in global health, and change the way people, you know, they're already maybe suffering, and maybe we can give something that can assist in alleviating that a bit. We do work with a lot of experts. Our biggest one, who's down at the bottom, Dr. Thomas Mather, he's the one down there in his overalls with his tick shield. But he's at a University of Rhode Island, and he is just a tick expert. He calls himself the tick guy. His goal is to get the message out. I was talking with him, and we were reminiscing how when we would all get sun, like when I was young, it's like you get sunburn because you wanted to be tan. And he's like, and now, you know, gosh, if you don't go out with your, you know, your sunscreen on, like what's happening? And be like, he's like, that's what we should be like. That's how we should be protecting people. Like the damage now that got into everyone's brain. Okay, I need to be protected from the sun. He's like, everyone needs to think about protecting themselves from ticks when they're going outside, because we still want to go outside and enjoy outside. So that's that. That's kind of the overview of Insect Shield. I will just show you quickly. I don't know. I got to put my sharing back on. Let me share. Okay, new share. I was just going to show on my. Oh, you're just seeing my email here quickly. We have our. Oh, that's my Zoom. No, I can't see my tab. Oh, sorry. Everybody, I had to change my name on the Zoom. Let me just lower this down. I'll just do it this way. So if you go to equipforticks.com, and let me make this bigger. No, I can't make it bigger. Here we go. Here we go. And let me get rid of I can't get it. There we go. So this is something that just may want to go back and look at. But so like I said, we work with Dr. Mather, our tick guy. And we've doing a lot of just, what do you do if you get ticks? Understanding ticks, because the more you understand about how ticks work, what they're doing, how they're working within their kind of area, then you can protect yourself even more. This video right here, how to get a tick identified by an expert. We went to Tick Report at, they're in Massachusetts. They used to be at University of Massachusetts. Now they kind of have their own operation. But that video actually shows you how, when they get a tick from someone, how they identify it. And they actually, so they take a picture, they can tell you how long it's been on you and how they generally, what it may have, what kind of diseases it may be carrying, depending on the type of tick. And then they freeze it and they crush it and they take the DNA out, and then they identify it, and they can tell you which, if any, of the different bacteria it tests positive for. So and they send you this full report, and they have kind of a basic one where they'll test for kind of like 5 main, or you can do a more exhaustive, extensive test where they have about 20 different ones that they'll test for. And one thing that he was telling us, they actually save all of the ticks. And there's times people have come back because they've been sick with something else that they didn't even think didn't test for 5 years ago, and they'll say, hey, can you pull my tick out and can we retest that? And they can find that. So that information is key. So we've got a lot of really neat information here and a lot of short little videos about how to, he talks some about Insect Shield, but our goal with this is really to say, how do you protect yourself? Let's learn about ticks. And so I highly recommend. And just the myths, like I was mentioning, do they fall out of the tree? Those types of things. Do they bury under the skin? How do they carry disease? Just some really good information, because the more we know when we go outside and enjoy nature with ticks, then we can help, protect ourselves, not get tick bites, and hopefully not get any of the many diseases that, are associated with tick bites. So that's kind of the overview. So I would imagine if there's some questions or anything else, if, Dorian, you want to chime in, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, so we do have a couple questions. I don't. One of the questions was, can you send in a horse blanket to Insect Shield to be treated?
That we do. It's interesting. So we have some companies that sell horse blankets, because we've been doing some. There's a company called Weather Beater that does some. I believe so. That's a good. Okay, I'll kind of backtrack to that. So we sell products ourselves. We work with different brands. We do have a program called Insect Shield Your Own Clothes, where you can send in your own clothing, because many people are like, I have my stuff, I like my stuff, I don't, so you can do that. I believe we can accept horse blankets. They might be, and on our website we have a section for the insect shield, because we've got the website right here. So here, Treat Your Clothes. So I would imagine, actually I was just at our home office doing that. Pretty sure I can come back and confirm the horse blankets, but we've done a lot in the equestrian world before. It might cost a bit more. So right now it's $9 a piece to, treat a clothing item. And we also have a thing called an easy pack, where basically we send you this envelope, and you can just put as much stuff in as you possibly can. And then we treat all of that for, kind of a flat rate. But I can confirm that with the horse blankets, but we get a lot of different stuff. So it may be more than $9, but I would think we would do that.
The question was, what is the name of this program again? Were you looking for the Easy Pack? Was that what, and you want to answer that in the chat? Was that what you were looking for? And she also asked, if not washed, how many years will it be effective?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There's been what they call a shelf life study done. And after about 12 years, it was aborted because there was no degradation. But that's something in, kind of just like in a warehouse or in a, just kind of sitting and not being used. If you're using something, and it's also UV light can eventually degrade the permethrin. Like we all have, you put you have a lounge chair that sits outside, and you come back next year, it's faded. When it's fading like that, when the UV can come in and fade the colors, it's also going to fade out the insect shield. It's really about then use at that point. So actually our gear products, I didn't mention this, gear items are registered for 25 washed because they're considered items that you would not wash as much, but you would use. For example, like a blanket. We have this like kind of ground cloth picnic blanket. The EPA was like, well, you're going to use it a lot. And eventually, you're using it, you're sitting like, there's just eventually enough abrasion, but you wash it whenever, 10th time. So it lasts longer because you think about laundry, you're just having, everything's rubbing together. It's not the soaps in the laundry that are the problem. It's really more just, like I said, like the abrasion and the kind of rubbing together and the fiber loss that happens in the dryer when you have that lint tray. So like there isn't, but if you put it outside for 10 years and then you come back, like it's all going to be gone. So,
not in Minnesota.
Well, yeah, there you go. But yeah, it's on there. It's like, again, it's, if you think of it kind of like the dye in the fabric, the same way, if you took, a shirt and let it sit outside and how it could fade from UV light, or even just like, something you wear all the time and it started to just, we all have that favorite t-shirt that like eventually it just gets really thin in spots. In that, if you had the permethrin on there and those thin spots, like a lot of the permethrin is also going to be gone with those fibers. So we do, and that was actually I meant to say like the spray. So we have a spray, and the thing with the spray that we recommend, one is it's really for products that you can't treat. And going back to ticks living low, living on the ground, spraying shoes. The other key thing that we actually hadn't even thought of, we work with a lot of the Appalachian Trail, which, on the East Coast, and they were having a lot of people come down, getting bit by ticks and coming down with disease. And it was a big concern. So they started a big program to educate people that were going to, hike the trail in the summer. And everyone had a thought one day, like, okay, I'm all protected. But then they're putting their backpacks down on the ground and then putting the backpacks on their back. And all of a sudden the ticks got a free ride up to the back. So like things like that's for like just for like spraying backpacks and things. And we've been working, there's a video. We've actually been working with the disc golf. I don't know if you guys love disc golf, but one of the number one disc golfers in the world, he had Lyme disease, and he was very lucky because he found out they diagnosed him in just a few months. And he's really had some struggles. He came back, and then actually last year he had to take about a month off, and this year he's taken some more time off. But in the disc golfers, they have their disc golf bags. They put them down, they put them back on. So we've been like and they play in parks, and they're in areas that have no other kind of insect control. So we've been recommending that. And and then the other, like the basic thing we recommend is the spray. You can spray your shoes and the socks. If it's just at a minimum, again, to keep them from the ground up. But I think remembering like, okay, my backpack's down there, it's hanging out. And even like Dr. Mather in his tips will say, okay, if you're on the trail, walk in the middle of the trail. I have a dog. We take the dog out all the time into the parks and on the trails, but then someone's coming by and we have to move to the side. I'm like, I can't always stay in the middle of the trail. So it's remembering that you can't always, those things don't always hold up in real life. So what else you can do?
Somebody had asked, I'm just going to say this one out loud, but what is the name of the Minneapolis company that has items especially for hunters? It's Game Hide.
Yeah, Game Hide. And yeah, so Game Hide, if you think gamehide.com, and then they so they do it under their limited. We also sell like Bass Pro does some stuff, but Game Hide is Minnesota, owned and operated. So
question, why is the treated clothing supposed to be washed separately? I recently accidentally washed an insect shield treated item in a load of non-treated clothing.
Okay, that is, first off, totally fine. That is so it's actually something we've been trying to work with the EPA to remove from the label. That is, so the EPA is people, they're regulating, they're not, this is the only like textile that they're working a part of. So that was something they put on the label. It is not going to hurt anything. Again, if it's on there for 70 washes, it's not coming off. It's one of those, kind of like we want to, put everything on the back of a can that we possibly can language wise. So you're not hurting anything. It doesn't like come out. We have done also in the early days when we were starting, part of our getting our registration, we had to do this big biomonitoring study where we had to have people, they did it 3 ways. So they had people wore like full kind of spandex, tops and bottoms, and then had, or, kind of under gear, and then had insect shield clothing on top. And then they had people just be wearing insect shield, just regular. And they had to do like a lot of activity. So they said, okay, we're going to like just sweat and get dirty. And like, let's see what's happening. Is it coming off onto the skin? And it was, and then so they could check from, is it coming onto the skin? They could check the fabric after. So they had the 2 layers. So the top layers treated and under layers not treated. They could see if there was any migration from the top layer to the under layer. And they could also check everyone's urine to see what the permethrin's level, if they had any permethrin kind of coming in and then coming out. And there was like, basically the level was like in these where it's like 50 times greater than the lowest possible. And we have some detail on the website, but it like there was just virtually a 0 transfer. But that's a good question. It is one of those things when you're selling a shirt, but it's regulated by the government. It can, you have some marketing statements that they kind of, for us too, we're like, that makes no sense, but it's what it is. Thank
you. Next question. Any plans to carry larger sizes on your website? Women's plus size clothes? In general, your clothing items seem to run small. Yeah, I mean, that's excellent. And I will absolutely take that back. We've been really, when we first started, just to kind of give you some more of the kind of the company background, we were primarily working through our brand partners. Like you go to REI and you'd find the products, or like the Game Hide. And in the past few years, we really felt like there was a hole of just kind of just more basic product that then we could sell ourselves, make and sell ourselves. So we're trying to continually expand that. And that's a great point I will bring back to the team and let them know that people are looking for more size offerings. And that's where, and sometimes if like, we've been having more and more people coming with also the, treat your own clothes, because you can get your own stuff done. And so, so that also can help kind of alleviate that side. But it's great. That's great to know that people are looking for more. Just a comment. I love what I affectionately call my bug clothes. Thank you so much. They work really well, especially at the cabin. I can be outside again.
Excellent. And just also plugging, we do have an affiliate program with the Minnesota Lyme Association. So you get anyone, if your first time purchase is 15% off, and then, but always 10%, if you buy through the link, which I think you'll share after, 10% of the sales always goes back to the association to help support all the efforts that they do. So any of the sales that come through that, we're really trying to help. That's the thing. We have something that really feel like we can help people. And so if we can make it easier for people to access, and for groups like you all to just help, obviously the support aspect and the education aspect. So we're happy to kind of be in this community and do what we can.
Yep, so if you just go to mnlime.org on our homepage down at the bottom there, you can get to that link to Insect Shield. So that would be great.
Yeah.
Does the item purchased already treated have any advantage over one you've treated yourself?
A little bit, to be honest, because when we treat the items that we make or our other brand partners make, we are treating them like in a factory setting, as it were. And they have to send in a certain amount, and it's all done together in the same load, and it's all the same fabrics coming into that same load. So there is a little bit, but yeah. So I mean, there would be some, because it's just, when we put, individual pieces in through the system, you think about anything that's like a bulk production of anything that you're making, you can kind of hone it into the exact fine detail. Where you're doing a per piece, maybe already, or you've worn it a bunch and maybe it's a little bit older, and has some, it wouldn't be something that would go through the system quite as well. But the per piece works great, but they're definitely, if you are buying it already done that we have treated in the bulk setting, you just kind of get that advantage, because it's just the system can be like honed, because we treat everything. There's always something like different fabrics, and even when you send things in, we kind of have to make sure that we have the right amount. So you'll see on the hang tags or the label, we applied the permethrin, which you can't see, but it's in there. So we applied at 0.52% permethrin goes weight to weight. So it literally says on the back here, the active ingredient, and it would say this on a product that we treated as well, is 0.52% permethrin. And the other ingredient, which I always love this, is the garment. So it's like the garment is part of the ingredient, and that's 99.48%. And then total, we get 100. Well, when we're treating, individual pieces, that formula is always, it's still totally within the levels, but it's not, toning it into the 0.52% is not the exact science it is when we're treating, 1,000 of the exact same t-shirt. So, but.
And I'm wondering if what she might possibly asking also is if she puts permethrin on her clothing herself.
Yes.
And that is a big difference, correct?
That's a big difference. Absolutely. Yes, yes. So what you're going to see in the can is basically, I believe it's, 6 washes is the typical. So the difference with spraying your own product is you don't have anything really to bind the permethrin into the fabric fibers. In the factory, when we do the treatment, it's the permethrin and we can bind it on. When you're just spraying it, like, so in our factory, it's not like, we're just not like spraying everybody's, it's not just this spray of mass, products. So this is really, it's 6 washes. What we recommend for shoes is kind of like once a month, especially during the kind of the tick season. But yeah, it's a very different thing. But if you're going like one trip, or you're doing like one thing, and you just want to spray it down, or you just want to spray them down, you want to do it more often. But yeah, no, definitely it's about 6 washes at the most, because you're just, we have our process itself. There's a heating part, like we're bonding onto the fibers, which you can't do at home with this spray because there's nothing to make that link.
Awesome. Do you still have to tuck clothes in all the way up? Are the ticks able to crawl underneath the clothing to hide from the permethrin? And this is continued. For example, under an untreated bra or untreated underwear or shirt.
At that point, and actually, like, if you have like socks, and pants, that's like, they really would, in a typical situation, they would never even get beyond all that way up. That would really be that they're getting stopped well before they get up to like an underwear, that they would be, that's the goal, is stop them before they can get past.
Yeah. Now, if you're laying on the ground, that's a whole nother ball of wax.
Yes. Well, that's where I think that's especially with the hunters, because they were I guess like they were all like, okay, we just kind of like, we're often like down on the ground, and they had the full outfit. So yeah, the full outfit. If you have, that's, and we don't treat like underwear or we do the t-shirts, but we actually don't like do underwear or undergarments. We usually just do the outerwear is enough to stop them. And again, like with or spraying your that's where we've got the shoes. But yeah, if you're laying down, you want to have the full outerwear, but that would stop them. Shouldn't typically get kind of beyond that and get underneath.
I think I know the answer, but do you have a calf or tube sock? I put my pant leg inside my sock for better control.
Yeah, and actually, no, yeah, we do. We have a number of socks. We've got like short socks, like high socks. We've got, kind of hiker socks, travel socks. But it's still even a good idea. Like Dr. Mather, he's always like, he still does, because he's just been doing, he still will do the socks outside. But yeah, we have high socks as well. Yeah, absolutely.
If possible, I would also like to hear about using the permethrin on land along property lines, around home perimeters. Thank you. I don't think you can use permethrin in that format, but maybe you can answer that.
Well, people do. No, actually, that's permethrin is using that. That would be like in the landscaping. And I'm not. This would be a different. I think it's a different level of type of permethrin, but permethrin is used often in landscaping. Another thing, actually, permethrin is used in like lice shampoos and like scabies creams and things. So it is something too when people, that whole thing of like putting it on your skin. People get nervous, but like, it is often used in those applications. One thing that made me think of, if you read the back of this can, it says do not put on your skin. And that can worry some people, which, that is a scary sounding statement. But the key is permethrin needs to go on a textile to stay basically kind of on top of surface. When you're using DEET or other type repellents, which you may need to in certain cases, DEET on those, they're often like petroleum based, and they're like that because they need to try to stay on top of the skin as long as possible. And that helps it, like those oils help them not absorb in. So permethrin, though, the way the formulations are, they don't have that base. So if you spray it on your skin, it's fine, but it's just going to absorb in and it'll come out in your urine. It's not going to do any good. So that's why, it needs to be on something that it can kind of hold on to. And that's where the textile comes into play. But yeah, it is used in some lawn care. But
I'm assuming, but I'm guessing though, it's probably applied in a different format, or you maybe don't.
Yeah, no, that would be a person.
You don't buy a can of permethrin and spray it on the orders.
Exactly. I think that's the guy's coming with his big. Yeah, you can buy like 5-gallon drums of permethrin, and then you have that sprayer that people spray around. So it is absolutely used in that setting.
Perfect.
But ours would not be. Yeah.
So the person said, I've heard about putting the permethrin on cotton balls and putting those inside of toilet paper rolls. Then some people put those rolls on the property. Yes, because what that does is it takes it back to the mice. The mice
exactly.
Bring it to their nests.
The tick bait. Yes, the tick bait rolls. And actually, I'm doing an interview soon with a gal who's at Penn State, who she studies like tick behavior, and she works a lot with horses. And so I know I was listening to a podcast that she'd done, and that's one thing they recommend for a lot of the, kind of around the stalls, if they can do that to keep the ticks away. But no, that's a good way.
I got motor oil on my insect shield treated jeans. What can I use to remove the oil without affecting the treated garment?
Yeah, the only thing you cannot do is dry clean. So it should just regular, if you put like some OxyClean in or something like that, that one shouldn't remove the insect shield. So dry cleaning will remove it, because there's the chemicals in dry cleaning because they're meant to strip off the product. But I would recommend something like OxyClean, or it's actually interesting because we had something that had come up. There's a product you can buy on Amazon called Orange X, which is a mechanics grease washing. And I know that stuff is good for getting off grease. But yeah, you should detergent like that, it won't take the insect shield off. It's really just dry cleaning, removes the active ingredient.
Awesome. Are there any other questions that anybody has? I think we went through everyone's that was in the chat. Does anyone have?
Yeah, it was that equip. The what was that again? The rest of the equip?
Well, it's equip, then the number 4ticks.com. And it's also just, it ends up taking you right to our insect shield like page, which, and then it goes to our, so if you, on our page, where is our, see, I should know this. It's under the resources.
Probably.
And then see how it could,
Okay.
then right here, it's the Equip for Ticks
Oh, yeah,
Resource Center.
Yep.
But you know, it's amazing. And I think you all would, we actually some of these we put on TikTok, and we hadn't really been doing a lot of TikTok. And we put at one point we put some videos of just how to remove a tick. And like we had like over 1 million views in just a couple weeks. And it just shows us how people, they don't know really what to do. So I think that's the, really like taking the tick out properly. And like Dr. Mather, he's, we were talking because he's like, just like you can take the tick out. I mean, there's all, I'm sure you've all heard like the people that use a cigarette, or they like, put oil on, or they put, and it's going to come out. And he's got some really good information on like how to remove the tick. And also knowing like if the head stays in, but you get the rest of the body out, like that's okay. Like there's some really good information on that as well, because it's getting the tick out properly and then saving the tick. And then he also has, so on Dr. Mather at the Tick Encounter Resource Center on his University of Rhode Island website, you can also for free, you can just take a picture of the tick and send it in to him. And within 24 hours, he will email you back and tell you what kind of tick he had, what kind of tick it is. And then because of the type of tick it is, potentially what type of disease it could have. But again, like he's not doing the full test like the tickreport.com folks are. But he can also tell you generally how long it's been feeding. And obviously that's a key, can be a key element to know. But it's interesting, like even like the anatomy of a tick, like this little one down here explains kind of how, how ticks work. And I did an interview with him, we're going to post soon. And we were just talking about kind of just tick behavior. And it's actually the more you know, and that's when he was talking about mice and deer and how like that, like, they're the ones, that are especially, and it's really mice even more than deer that are the big issue, because mice are lower. So he's like, sometimes deer are just too tall up for even the tick to kind of get on. But yeah, mice are, yeah. So he was just like, if you think about how a tick is, what they want to do, they want to get blood, and so that's why he's like, they're down there low, they're not going to crawl up a tree, because it's like that would take them like a long time to get up there, and then to try to like, he's like, and then they're going to try to fall down on something, like that's just that's evolutionary, that's a lot of energy put in just to try to get some blood. They're going to stay low and try to just jump onto something that goes by that they can tell is warm blooded walking in. So
if you have a couple, I did have a couple more questions.
Oh.
I've had ticks on my neck under my hairline. Should we protect our heads and hair somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it goes to the same thing, because they will. So I mean, doctor, that's what he says. Like when you find a tick, they've crawled all the way up and they're trying to get to warm spots. And that's where they, if they have a free reign, they'll get all the way up. So again, if we can stop them low is best, because they want to get in somewhere kind of warm and cozy. But we absolutely, I mean, we have hats and things like that. But he's like, if you thinking again, like the tick, if you can go ground up for tick protection is the best. But like we said, I mean, you're lying down, or you're on the ground. That's, we have a blanket, people often use just to, if they're kind of hanging out on a picnic side. But yeah, they want to get, and you, especially, you think with dogs too, that's, you always find them in that, cozy, warm, neck area. So yeah, that's the thing. They'll get all the way up as if they can. So if we can stop them, and that's where that Dr. Mather will say, tucking your pants into your socks, because also that, and then tucking your shirt in, because they'll get blocked. So if you can block them from getting up any higher as well, will help. But yeah, they want to get everywhere.
I work for a children's camp and we do treat clothing for campers. Do you sell to camps permethrin for soaking? Sorry, I can't multitask and look it up myself.
It's interesting. We feel like the camp community, they're really, obviously, because it's you're sending the kids out. We don't, I mean, they could, buy the spray, or they could recommend to the campers that are coming, hey, get some insect shield, or, get some spray, or send some product in for testing. But yeah, they would just have to like the spray type of thing. And we have the spray, there's other sprays out there with permethrin. But again, that's the thing with the sprays, it's only going to last you, a handful of washes. So it's really best to either send in, like we do a lot of people sending in the camp product for the summertime is a great option. But yeah, we don't sell, because again, and the way that you spray, it kind of has to be done a certain way. So it's like, even if you just send like a big liquid of this, there wouldn't be really a way to properly apply it on.
And I think someone else answered the question, but they had asked about Dr. Mather's website, what university. Looks like someone else wrote University of Rhode Island ticket counter web URL edu URI. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Web
No,
URI.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody can see that. But otherwise, we had no questions, just thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody else
so
said,
much.
I love my insect shield clothing, and I'm so glad to know that I don't have to wash it separately. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So lots of, and other people reacted to the I love, and once again, some thank you so much. And so thank you so much. And so this is how nice Mary is. Mary is so nice, you guys. So she has offered to give one of you lucky people a $100 gift certificate to Insect Shield. So what I did was I wrote, I don't know if you can see, you can't really see this very good, but I wrote all your names, little stickies in here, and put them in half, because I Post-it notes was the only thing I could think of. So I'm not going to look. I'm going to hold it over here. I'm going to wiggle it around, and I'm going to pull out a name of a lucky winner. And then Mary, how would you like to get that to this person?
Well, if you can get me their email address, and then we will send them an electronic gift card.
Perfect. So whoever is the winner, if you can write your email address in the chat, she will get a hold of you. Okay, are you ready? Can everybody do a drum roll? Okay, here it goes. I've got Doug F. Doug F is the winner.
Yay!
So Doug, are you still, hopefully Doug's still on.
Yeah,
I didn't
must be
look, I just
present.
wrote these a while ago.
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, great.
Yay,
Doug.
So,
Excellent.
Doug,
Thank
if
you
you
so
can
much.
type your email address into the chat, we'll make sure that Mary
Okay.
gets that.
Yep.
Yay, hooray. I
Thank you.
do want to state again that we do have, I know some people came into the meeting late. So I just wanted to let you know once again about, we are showing this film, The Quiet Epidemic, at the Heights Theater in Columbia Heights on Saturday, May 6th. Doors open at noon. The film will start at 12:30. Anne's going to be there with a prevention booth, so she can answer, help on, because Anne is our prevention guru. She's the one who got Mary to come and talk to us today, and so she's going to be sharing all sorts of information, all kinds of great ideas about prevention. But once again, Mary did offer for the movie to be able to give out now at the movie. So if you come to the movie, you can put your name in a hat to win another $100 gift certificate to Insect Shield.
No, I want to. And that
Doug's
movie,
gonna come just to see if you can win twice in a row.
Yeah, I want to see that movie. It's getting a lot of play. It's really a lot of groups are putting it on. We've been getting a lot of people letting
so
us know
they're
that.
really, I think they've made a real big effort
Really
to try
great.
to get groups to put it on in public format so people could see it. So that will be on May 6th. And once again, if you have not signed up for our if you aren't getting our e-blast, please go to mnlyme.org, minlyme.org, and you just put your email into the bottom. There's just a little thing that says sign me up, and you'll get our e-blast so you know when everything is. And also on the bottom of that homepage, also right next to that spot, if you want to go click that link to Insect Shield and go order some clothing from Insect Shield, you'll get 15% off your first order. And anytime that you order via that link, the Minnesota Lyme Association gets 10%. So that would be amazing.
Yay.
Also,
And we all, just to chime in too, and if you put like once you buy something from us, or even if you don't have to buy, you can just put your email in. We do a lot of promotions. So actually, like coming up, because there's like Tick Disease Awareness Month, and then we've got Mother's Day, Father's Day, July 4th. So there's a lot. We do a lot of great sales too. So that's a great, like we just did a couple weeks ago, last weekend for Easter. I think we had our blanket for like $20 or something. So there's a lot of great things too. So you can just, or t-shirts, so like, we're doing them all a big sale. So the promotion team does a great job of making sure there's always some good stuff that you can get for those, especially for around the different holidays for spring and
I
summer.
personally love the little dog, summer dog vest.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yeah. No, the
help-
pet product is good. Yeah.
Mhm.
and it is coming up, May is Lyme Awareness Month.
Right.
And
So
so
I think
if
it's
I could
romantic what
ask
we're doing.
one favor of everybody, I think one of the most important things that we can do as people who have experience with tick-borne illnesses and information about this is just to share this prevention information with people that and let them know how important it is to protect themselves, but also how easy it really is if they just get the right, if they're out wearing the right clothing, so that anytime that they're out gardening, they're out golfing, all of these things that we love to do here when we're at the cabin, there's so many ways that we can protect ourselves, and so many people don't know about it. And so in whatever gentle reminders you can give them, if hunters, please let them, I know they're all worried about their dogs, but we're worried about them too. So we want to make sure they're protected. So if you can do nothing else in May, if you can just let people know that you happen to love or care about what they can do to help getting a tick-borne illness, I think that would be great.
Agree.
So if you want to unmute yourself for just a second here, we'd love to give Mary a big round of applause. So if you can hit your unmute button, and you can turn on your cameras if you'd like, so that Mary can see all these beautiful faces of all these people who came to visit her day.
No, thank you so much.
Round of applause. Yay!
Thank you.
Thanks for, really appreciate your time and letting me come on and share some knowledge. That's great. I really appreciate it. And I hope you all are, doing okay. And, hopefully, I'm sure there's a lot of struggles out there. So we're doing what we can. I actually did the Lyme fly-in too, just trying to help support however we can. So yeah, I did that for North Carolina. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
there's
That's
just
awesome.
seems, whatever we
And
can.
for
all
any
do.
of you who don't know what that is, there's a group called Center for Lyme Action. They are basically a lobbying group to get more funding for all things surrounding tick-borne illnesses, for research, and all of those sorts of things. And that's their whole goal, is they're out lobbying for more money from the government.
Yeah.
And so
Really
good at what
impressive.
they do. You can go to their website, you can sign up. The fly-in, you actually meet with people I think they just do it once a year with your representatives, but there's a lot of things that you can do just with a click of a button they'll send you an email if there is a bill that's coming up for a vote, and you just put in your zip code, and they connect you to your representatives, and you send off an email. So it's a great way to have your voice heard in a pretty simple manner. So called Center for Lyme Action. So. All right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your week. Hopefully the temperatures for those in Minnesota, will start to rise again after our return to snow that we had this weekend. But hopefully we are on the upswing from the temperature standpoint. So everybody take care, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Here.
Bye. Bye.